How did you feel going for Hajj after 24 years?
Subhanallah, going for Hajj after 24 years was definitely life-changing. Nowhere near what I had experienced back in 2002 when I made Hajj. And the reason why we say 24 years is we're counting the Hijri years. And when I went last, the expansions to the Jamarāt had actually started before that. It was actually just a pillar where we would pelt the shaitan on the days of Mina. But the changes that have happened in every single way, it's just amazing, subhanallah.
Did you notice any changes in the Haram this year compared to previous years?
Okay, before I actually go into the Haram, I want to talk about the Nusuk System, where people from across the globe, based on nationalities, and I think they're expanding this Nusuk System, they would directly deal with the service provider in Saudi Arabia, which means you get onto your phone or your laptop and you book your Hajj. Now, it's becoming slightly easier as the years are passing from what I have learned. The reason is, obviously, the development of the system takes time. There are going to be 1 or 2 million people on that system soon. The idea they have is to try and put the whole of the Hajj as far as possible onto the Nusuk System. So there is a little bit of a delay. There is a little bit of anxiety when it comes to booking because you're actually tapping away at your laptop or you're busy punching on your phone to try and ensure that you get that space. So that was probably the only part of the entire Hajj that created a little bit of anxiety in the hearts and minds of the people who were trying to reserve a space. But after that, everything else flowed very, very well. So one thing I must say is the Saudi government is trying their best to give a beautiful experience to the Haji, and they want to deal directly in a way that they cut out as many people as possible in the pipeline, if I can say. So you're dealing as directly as possible. Obviously, you will have to have a service provider. That service provider is responsible from A to Z of everything.
When does Hajj registration usually open for most residents around the world?
So I think it was in Ramadan, if I'm not mistaken, in some of the countries. I know in the UK, I'm not too sure about the USA. Every country has its own date and they have their own information. So when you register your interest to make the Hajj, what happened in the UK, for example, is the local agents who are connected to the Saudi service providers would be responsible just for giving information, for trying to guide the people. Because before, they used to take the Hajjis and go. Now, their role has changed. They're no longer the ones responsible, but they would be assisting. Because if you have groups of people who are going for the first time, probably it will be their last time in the case of most of them, they would need some guidance. People don't know. Many people save up for Hajj. They haven't been for Umrah, so they don't know much. So in Ramadan, there was a slot they opened. There was a slot they opened a little bit later. And even afterwards, there were a few slots. So they open up a slot. They tell you to register. They have a certain number. When that happens, they close it. They say everything's taken. Now wait for the next level. The next level comes in, they take another batch, and then they see how it settles, and they take a third batch, and so on. So, like I said, it is a bit tedious. It does have a little bit of a glitch that is faced sometimes. Obviously, thousands of people coming in. And another thing is, because it's Hajj, there are people who may be trying to hack and so on. So they have a solid security system there. But mashallah, it's if you're meant to go, you're meant to go. That doesn't mean don't try. You must keep trying. I've told people, keep trying. Even if your name doesn't come at the end, the fact that you tried, Allah will reward you for it.
Which service provider did you go with this year, and what packages did they offer?
So the service provider that we used was Al-Bayt Guests. They had probably more than 10,000 of the Hujjaj. And we had groups from the UK, USA, Canada, etc., the countries that are on the Nusuk app. And we had a group that we were trying to guide towards this Hajj. And we did the Hajj together, but we were under the supervision and under the service provider Al-Bayt guests. So mashallah, light upon light from the UK, we went as a group of about 200 Hajis under Al-Bayt guests who had thousands of Hujjaj. So they took care of us just like they took care of all the others who joined them. It was amazing. There are so many other service providers, and I'm sure they've had very good experiences with the bulk of them. If anyone has complaints, usually there is a channel through which you complain. But one thing I noticed is people always pick on one or two of the negatives and they forget the thousands of positives. I noticed so much politeness. I noticed hospitality, the welcoming attitude, the service, the attitude to provide a service. For 11,000 of us, do you believe there were 4,000 people employed to ensure that 11,000 people are being served completely? So that is something unique. It didn't happen before. Also, the standard of service was very high. We were quite happy with Al-Bayt, mashallah.
What's the difference between shifting and non-shifting packages? How does it work?
So they offered packages of shifting and non-shifting. Just for those who might not know, the shifting is when you move from Mecca to Azizia, which is just a few kilometers away, but for the days of Hajj, it means a lot because it's going to be difficult to move and transport millions of people at the same time. So shifting to Azizia, and those who don't shift, they remain in Mecca and go to Mina from there. So those who base themselves in Mecca completely, that's the non-shifting package. It's a bit more expensive. Those who do shift to Azizia, it's a slightly cheaper package and it makes more sense. So we chose from what Al-Bayt had on offer, the ones that were all shifting packages. So all of us shifted. And from amongst us, there were those who selected 5-star packages and those who selected 4-star packages. Those who shared rooms. So when you share a room with 4 people, depending on the size of the room and so on, it becomes cheaper. And then those who decided, I'm not going to share, it's just going to be me and my spouse. Because when you're sharing, they put 4 males together, 4 females together. If you're a family, you have to pay a little bit more to have the room to yourself. So all these packages are available. And we had people who did all of these things. But from amongst us, the 200 that went, we did not have a single person who actually did not shift to Azizia because we encouraged them to shift. And we told them, don't worry. If you want to follow, if you want any one of what we are going to help you with, it's going to be shifting. Because, if you have some of those who didn't shift and so on, for me to be with all of them would be virtually impossible.
Once you landed in Jeddah or Medina, what happened next?
So basically, we landed in Medina. The bulk of us landed in Medina Munawwara, and we were welcomed by Al-Bayt guests. So that's the Saudi service provider. That's a massive organization. And they had people come, welcome us, help us through the immigration, the customs. And as we came out, they were standing there to ensure that they took our bags through. They got the transport from the airport in Medina to the Haram, where we were hosted or where the hotels had been booked. The check-in, in fact, when I arrived, the keys and everything were ready. So, mashallah, we got in and it was beautiful. We could actually get to the salah, the next salah that was being fulfilled in Masjid al-Nabawi with ease. And then in Medina, they provided breakfast. We had to do the rest of the meals. I think there was a package where the people had half board, meaning they have one other meal besides the breakfast. But the bulk of us, the breakfast was sufficient. And then we had arranged amongst us a tour around Masjid al-Nabawi. We took the Hujjaj walking around, just trying to show them this is the place. Many people had not been there before. So showing them where Masjid al-Ghamama is, what the history was, why the dome, what is happening, the places and so on, all the way around. And then we also took them on a walk to Masjid Quba because there is a walkway that has now been built in a smart way where you can walk 3.5 kilometers to Masjid Quba. And on the way, you see what's going on and you have managed to talk about the history of Medina and Masjid Jumu'ah and a few other things you see and coming back. On the way there or back, there are these electric carts. So there is so much of development. I noticed that the development is such that the experience of the last year compared to the 24 years back is actually mind-boggling. If you look at what the Saudi authorities have provided in terms of infrastructural development for the Hujjaj. It is really facility that is unmatched.
When your stay in Medina was over, how did the move to Mecca take place?
Okay, so I wanted to mention the visits to Uhud and Qiblatain and Masjid Quba and a few other places that we did have. And mashallah, it was a beautiful stay. We had a shorter stay because the package we had was only 18 days, unlike others who went for much longer. And then the transportation to Mecca, all of us, was arranged by Al Bayt. It was prepaid. And we went by train, which was the best way of going. What they did is they collected the bags the previous day and sent them by truck to Mecca to the hotels. All the bags had to be labeled clearly with your names. And we jumped on this fast train. It's the bullet train at 300 kilometers an hour. 2 hours we were in Mecca. We went to the hotels. The bags were waiting for us. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. And everything was beautifully streamlined. So when we arrived in Makkah al-Mukarramah in Ihram, it wasn't so easy. There was 2 days remaining for the beginning of the Hajj. So what Al Bayt did for us is they arranged at one of the 5-star hotels just across the Haram to say all our guests will come here. They will use the foyer facility, a huge facility, wash up there, leave your belongings there, and go and do your Umrah and come back here. They gave us a meal at that 5-star hotel and then took us to Azizia straight away. So we went to Azizia the same day and we spent 1 day before we actually went to Mina. And the Mina camps were beautiful because from what I remember 24 years back, there were these camps and we had little mattresses on the floor and that's it. They were fireproof camps. But there was still quite a bit of heat. It was quite difficult to spend the day there, especially in the heat. This time, it was weatherproofing. It had a beautiful air conditioning units and sealed. They had buffets. They had proper toilets and proper shower facilities, unlike before when it was not available. And even if it was available, people had to queue for hours on end. Now, yes, there are queues, but not for hours. I waited in the queue for 10 minutes exactly. Every time I needed a bathroom, I would go. It would take me approximately, I could have jumped the queue, but I wanted to join the queue, because we are one, no matter who you are. You could be an important person in your own mind, but for the rest of the people, you are just one of the Hujjaj. There are others who are far more important than you are in terms of whatever they may be doing on earth. It becomes irrelevant. So mashallah, we went and it was so beautiful, Mina. From Mina, we left to Arafah the following day, and in half an hour, we were there. We arrived at the camps. They said, you're not allowed to leave this bus until you get to the door of the camp because of the heat. So we won't allow you to walk more than the minimum, You have to walk from the bus into the camp.
Around what time did you move to Mina from Arafah?
We moved on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, mid-morning. Yes, so it was about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, somewhere there. And we got there in half an hour and we waited in the bus for a little while. When our bus got to the front, we jumped off and went onto the camps, into the camps. To my surprise, yes, there were many more people in the Arafah camps. We were sharing with approximately 250 people in one massive tent. But the facilities, there was a 3-way bedding that you could actually open up. So it's either a sitting arrangement like a sofa, or you can open it up into a bedding. And they provided sheets and pillows. They provided a little blanket just in case. And so we spent the day there in such a beautiful way. They gave us food. They had a buffet system, just like Mina. So in Mina, the buffet system, every 20 or 50 tents, they had one massive place where they provided food. And the food was beautiful. Like there were free drinks, meaning drinks throughout, juices, soft drinks, water, ice creams, tea, coffee. That was there provided for throughout the day in Arafah as well as in Mina through the days of Mina. So it was really unique. The Arafah experience was superb.
How were the facilities in Muzdalifah this year?
So yes, albeit they did go, an extra mile to ensuring that the infrastructure of what they were managing was one notch above. They must have spent a lot of money to cater for 11,000 Hujjaj and to provide for not just Mina, but Arafah as well. And when we were done with Arafah in the evening, we're allocated slots to go to Muzdalifah with the buses. So a few people wanted to walk, they walked, but in our group, no one walked. I'm talking of the 200 of us. And we encouraged them, let's stay together. 200 people is 4 buses, approximately 50 people per bus. So we stayed together, and our bus was just before midnight. That's the time slot they gave us. So you won't believe it, they provided us food after sunset, even though we had not yet read Maghrib and Isha, because on that night you have to read Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. It's not got to do with the timing, it's got to do with where you are, the place. So we ate and we went to sleep for a while waiting for those buses. Some people were doing ibadah and so on. I, with a lot of others, took the opportunity to nap for 2.5 hours. We got up, we freshened up, we used the bathroom and made wudu and all of that, and then jumped onto the buses. You won't believe it, in 15 minutes, we were in Muzdalifah at the right camp. So as much as Muzdalifah is very, very busy, this time they fenced off the areas, they numbered them. So the number of the camp you had is known because there's a camp in Mina, Arafah, and Muzdalifah. Now in Muzdalifah, the camp has no tents. It just has little carpets. And they give you a mattress in the little bag that they have given you when you were in Mina. So you take that bag and then you're now going into Muzdalifah. But when we arrived, many people had left Muzdalifah because the elderly, there are different schools of thought. They leave after midnight. We were arriving at about midnight. So we were fortunate because as they created the space, we occupied the space. So it works very well. I think Muzdalifah has approximate capacity, I was told, I'm not so sure, but I was told it has a capacity of about 550,000 people at one time. So that's like 500,000, for example, right? If there are 1.5 million Hujjaj, not everyone's going to be able to spend the whole night there. So it's good that we have different schools of thought that tell you, look, you can pass by. Some people say the elderly, they can go after midnight and so on. We spent that. We spent most of the time, we did Salatul Fajr there. We waited until the sky was slightly, getting a little bit yellow, and then we started going towards Mina.
How was the day of Eid, the Jamarāt, and the rituals that followed?
So Al-Bayt guests, they looked after us to the best of their ability, but because we were 200 with Light Upon Light, who was, the agent from Europe, what we did was we got to make a decision for us what time we want to go, and that most of us were going to walk. So we were going to walk from Muzdalifah to Mina, which was not too far. We must have walked about 3-4 kilometers that day, but we walked with thousands of other people. So it took us a while. We left at about 5:30, if I'm not mistaken. We got to the Jamarāt at 7:30. So 2 hours of walking. And it wasn't so hot because the sun had not yet risen, but as it was rising, it started becoming hot. I remember taking my umbrella out at one point because the sun starts burning you. But mashallah, we got to the Jamarāt, and you have to give due and credit to the Saudi authorities. Many people pick on the negatives. I promise you, the police did a job that was absolutely mind-boggling. The way they controlled the crowds, no stampeding, no incidents with millions of people walking. They had people monitoring the crowd. So as you are walking, they filter the crowds. To the left, they seal. So you're automatically walking onto the ground floor. When that seems a little bit full, they have a capacity, and the system, they would channel the people to walk through a different level. So now you're going to the first floor, and then they seal that, and you're going to the second floor. You don't realize it, but the police keep directing you, go this way, go that way, and then go the other way. So our group was split because we were going in one direction, they shut the shutters, and some had to go in another direction. But we already knew that we're all going to pelt the big Jamrah on that particular first day, which is the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. And so, mashallah, by 7:30, we were at the Jamarāt, and I had a few people with me, and mashallah, there were millions of others, and everyone's pelting. The way they've designed that pelting of the Jamra is in a boat shape. So it's so easy to pelt, and it's so long and it's so big. They have a basin that's huge. I remember back in the day when I was a student in Medina, every year there were people who died in the stampedes in pelting. We used to wait for the news, and we used to know people are going to die. We were only hoping that it would be a small number perhaps, because there's the elderly, So mashallah, now no one dies at the Jamra because they have streamlined it, and literally they have perfected it to the best of their ability. So mashallah, credit goes to them. Similarly, the air conditioning, it was beautiful because it's a hot day. When we were going to pelt, the huge fans and the cooling system and the way they have so many exit points to avoid stampeding, they have a one-way traffic system. So if you want to get to the Jamra, you have to join a certain path. You can't just walk in reverse or the other way or against the traffic. Another thing, the police never allowed anyone to gather. So you got to keep moving, because the minute you stop, you can create a stampede. With myself, people see me, and sometimes in their excitement, they want to take a photograph. And the policeman had told me, Sheikh, don't stop for the photo. Take it while you're walking. Because the minute you stop, before you know it, there's going to be thousands of people stampeding because everyone's moving and you stopped. How could you do that? So I didn't stop at all for anyone. Some people might have felt offended, but they should understand. So it's amazing how their instructions are all based on some professional courses that they have done to manage the crowd. As much as the languages might be tough, they are there. Similarly, I noticed people standing, the policemen and the wardens and the scouts, men and women, standing in the heat, in the sun, spraying other people with water, and themselves, they are in the heat, they are humans as well. And they were doing it smiling, Haji, Haji, welcome, and so many different words of, it's like someone's trained them to say, welcome these people. I know some of them were a little bit frustrated because it's hard to continue with that smile and that, for the whole day. You get tired. I asked one policeman that, you're standing in the sun. Do you guys move around? He said, you know what? It's very tough, but I'll move into the shade for a little while, come back again here for another half an hour. Imagine half an hour, one spot, the heat, 45 to 48 degrees. Direct sunlight is more than that. So mashallah, credit goes to them. I really believe they will be rewarded tremendously. And those above them, the authorities, the government at large. People have a fat lot to say about them all the time, but where credit is due, they will tell you, oh, they're doing this, they're making money, they're doing whatever. I tell you something. The service provided, and you look at the infrastructure, Al-Bayt, for example, one of the examples. When I look at how much we paid and what they gave us in return, I think it was worth it. People say it's very expensive. It is expensive. The world is expensive. And Allah says, if you can't afford it, you don't go. And everything's going up. But if you want to pay peanuts, you get peanuts. If you want to pay a bit more, you get a better service. If you want to pay, there was a service provider, Saudi, providing luxury service. It was very expensive, but it was 10-star, beyond 5-star. And it's something unique for the first time. There are people who will afford that. Let them come. There's nothing wrong with it. It's amazing because their lives might be even more comfortable than that. They will come, at least they feel. So for someone to say Hajj has to be a sacrifice, it depends what you mean. For everyone, it's a sacrifice, but on a different level. For some people, it will be a sacrifice, yet for others, when you look at them, they're going to say, what sacrifice did you guys make? But generally, to create ease for the Hujjaj is an act of worship. You don't have to go and suffer for your Hajj to be accepted. And that's what people feel sometimes. You can actually go and have a very easy Hajj. After I returned from the Hajj, I started visiting some of the Hujjaj that we made Hajj with, just, as a courtesy call. And some were saying that, we were telling people our Hajj was so easy, I wonder if it was even accepted. And I'm saying it's got nothing to do with it being accepted. I'll thank Allah it was easy, because when you're going, Allahumma inni uridu al-hajja fayassirhu li wa taqabbalhu minni. Allahumma inni uridu al-umrata fayassirha li wa taqabbalha minni. One of the du'as, oh Allah, I intend to make umrah, make it easy for me and accept it from me. Oh Allah, I want to make hajj, make it easy for me and accept it from me. So Allah says, okay, I make it easy for you. Now that He's made it easy for you, you're complaining. So may Allah bless them all and reward the government and all those who made this happen. And that day was so beautiful, the day of Nahr, We walked from Muzdalifah to Mina, from Mina to Azizia, where our hotel was, from Azizia to Mecca, because it was a Friday and they block the roads, so they don't allow any vehicles. You want to go somewhere, you're going to have to walk. You walk up to a certain point. At that point, you can either catch public transport, which is governed by a certain fare, or you can catch registered taxis, which is a little bit higher, or a private vehicle, which is very high. Sometimes the people rip you off, unfortunately it happens. So you have people, but we got to Mecca by 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was doing Tawaf al-Ziyarah with my wife at 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock, we were doing Sa'i. We were exhausted, but that's the exhaustion. But we never had problems. We finished off by 12 o'clock. 10 past 12 was the adhan of Jumu'ah. We were sitting in the mataf and we did Jumu'ah. In fact, in the Tawaf on the first floor, and we did Jumu'ah there. 12:30, the Jumu'ah was done. It was a very short Jumu'ah that day. And mashallah, then we went back and we rested. So it was such a beautiful day, and we already did our Tawaf al-Ziyarah and everything was done. It was simpler than ever before. So this is a point that I want to highlight to yourself and to everyone else. That from my experience, this was the simplest and the easiest Hajj ever. If we can actually fulfill Hajj, don't ever hold back. Allah will make it easy. And I want to really, really salute and commend the Saudi authorities for the restrictions they had, harsh restrictions, to manage the unregistered people who would normally come for Hajj. People with what they call tasrih, no permits. They had a big campaign that ran for 2-3 months prior to the Hajj to say, in fact, just after Ramadan, they kicked it off. And then the last month, they got serious about it. They would search every vehicle. Nobody's allowed into Mecca unless you have a Hajj permit. Wallahi, that paid off. It paid off in such a big way. We were the proof and the witnesses that we had a very, very streamlined Hajj. When the legal Hujjaj go in, when we say legal, people say, but is the government allowed to actually govern how many people want to go for Hajj? Obviously they are. When we say وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, the verse that tells you to go for Hajj if you are able, what the ulama have mentioned and fuqaha have mentioned, that istita'a means for those who are able. Ability is not just financial and physical, but it is also al-idhn min as-sultan, permission from those in authority. You don't have a visa, you don't have permission, you don't have a permit, you cannot go, you should not go.
Sure.
So it was a very, very amazing experience.
As a guide, how did you support first-time pilgrims during Hajj?
So my experience as a guide is, because we initially met the group in Medina Munawwara, we spoke to them a few times. We had a chance to actually take them around. We got to know them, and we started answering questions in Medina about Hajj. We had a few seminars, and we had a few other scholars who came in and spoke to them as well. Sheikh Omar Sulaiman, Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Salah. We had Sheikh Abdullah Yusri was part of our group anyway. But so we started answering questions of the people and making them acquainted with what to expect. The day before we left for Mecca, we went through the paces one by one with them in person. And mashallah, that helped so much. People asked questions, they were much more at ease and so on. Then we got to Mecca, we did what we did before Hajj, we spoke to them again, and we created a group, which we still have. It's a Hajj group on WhatsApp. And we used to speak to the whole crowd through Mixela, which is a system whereby I can speak in real time and they can hear me. So, gone are the days when you needed a big microphone to say, Allahumma, and then everyone says, Allahumma. Now you can just have it on Mixela where I just say, Allahumma, and everyone has a little earpiece in their ears from their phones listening in to what is being said. A slight delay, but we used it in the walk to Quba to test it out. And it worked with a little delay. So we used it a few times during the Hajj to talk to them. And mashallah, it was quite good. We could still come up with something different. Different groups had different systems, but we found this worked quite well for us. So we create ease. Remember, there's a lot of anxiety. People have come in and told them different things, so they don't know what to expect. For myself also, because it was my first time after so many years, there were a few things that I didn't know what to expect, but I was expecting worse than what was actually on the ground. So what was on the ground was so easy. That's why when I met Brother Umar Akbar, who's the head of Al-Bayt guests, I told him, my brother, we pray for you. And we pray for all of those who made the Hajj as it is. You know, one or two little complaints that people might have had, oh, this happened, oh, you know what, this fan is not working, or that can happen anyway. It was immediately dealt with. And mashallah, we had, a few people who were not so healthy, one or two health emergencies, nothing serious. Walillahi alhamd. So it was really quite easy to remain in communication with the people who were with us. There was one incident of an elderly lady who was lost for a little while, but she found her way back a few hours later. And we had already told them that you must take a pin of where your camp is. And when you enter the camp, you must know where your tent is. Because in the camp, there are so many tents. The tent that you are in, you need to know. It's easy to be lost. Everything looks similar. And there are thousands of people you need to know. And you shouldn't get lost, because many people, even educated people, get lost. So we have technology. Take your phone, put a pin. This is my camp. When you want to go back to the camp, check where your pin is and keep going.
Were Light Upon Light volunteers and Al-Bayt staff available 24/7 during the journey?
So Light Upon Light had a 24-hour channel on WhatsApp, and anyone who was in the group was messaging at any time. They were responded to almost immediately. Anyone who needed something, they were responded to immediately. So you needed to have a phone with a battery, and you needed to be a part of the group, and they were. And Al-Bayt was connected now to Light Upon Light. So it's more like, corporatized. So you have the managers and then the guys and the guys. So if there was anything that needed attention from Al-Bayt, immediately it would be raised with Al-Bayt, and they dealt with it. A few times there were a few things. Almost instantly it was dealt with. And it was 24/7. Mecca is a city that doesn't sleep, as you know. So there's always someone. They were in shifts. And mashallah, jazahumullah khair. May Allah reward them for the goodness, alhamdulillah.
After completing Hajj, do pilgrims immediately return home, or do they stay in Mecca or Medina?
Mashallah. So now that the Hajj was done and we finished with the 3 days in Mina, in fact, many people stayed in Mina for that extra day, because now that the facility in Mina is so beautiful, people want to stay. No, let's stay an extra day. When I was much younger and I did the Hajj, most people did not stay in Mina for the extra day because Mina was tough. Now, most people stayed in Mina because the camps were so beautiful. There are other service providers who have not yet gotten an upgrade of their infrastructure done, but we're hoping that they would probably do it, because when other people saw our camps, they were like, you guys were in some amazing camps. And I said, you haven't even seen the other camps. They're even more amazing than ours. So inshallah, we're hoping that the other service providers can also up their game, and they will, inshallah. It's a matter of time. But when the Hajj was done, our group, depending on the package that was actually chosen right at the beginning when they had booked their packages with the Nusuk app, the Hujjaj, many of them in our group, in fact, our group came from Aziziyah back to Mecca to Jabal Umar, one of the 5-star hotels. They stayed there for 5 extra days to 6 days, and they left in their groups either to Birmingham, to Manchester, to London, to Toronto, to America, based on where they came from. But all of that was supervised by Al-Bayt. So the transport from Aziziyah to Mecca, the rooms in Mecca, the food in Mecca, and people had access to the Haram. They did the extra tawafs. At that time, there was no restriction of being in Ihram because of tawaf al-ziyarah, which is done in plain clothing. They had an open, a few days, weeks, I think. Then, going to the airport, one thing that was a little bit challenging was the rule is you have to be at the airport 8 hours before your flight. I know that's a little bit long, but looking at it from their perspective, There's millions of people that have to go. It will probably be easy for you. You'll have to wait. You'd rather sit at a coffee shop having coffee at the airport or, chilling at the airport for a while than missing a flight. One person goes missing, and that's a few hours that are already knocked out of your entire travel. And so they'd rather have you at the airport early the day you're departing so that you do ensure that if anything is wrong with whatever, it can be dealt with. If you're going to come last minute as a massive group, it's going to be problematic. So that was it. But mashallah, even the exit, we had a very beautiful experience. Something amazing. I must commend the immigration authorities at the airports. I was out within a minute, 59 seconds. I was out through immigration. Unheard of. In Jeddah, on departure, people were out in no time. Similarly, coming in, all the Hujjaj said that they had a very pleasant experience, welcoming them and, how are you? This type of warmth makes the Hujjaj feel really, really welcome. So it's something commendable. And we must say, mashallah, jazakumullah khair to all of them, because many of the occasions where we have had complaints, people have said all sorts of negatives. This time we have to say all the positives, and we have to give credit where it is due. Whoever is training them and telling them, it has definitely paid dividends.
What was your overall experience traveling again after 24 years as a guide and group leader?
My overall experience was probably such that I can encapsulate it in one sentence. I would go back again and again and again if I could.
MashaAllah, inshallah.
That says all, right?
Definitely.
What's your one-sentence advice for anyone considering booking with Light Upon Light?
I think they would never go wrong to book with Light Upon Light. There are so many others who still give a beautiful service as well. Without undermining them, I was with Light Upon Light, and I think if you'd like to join me, you're more than welcome. We'll try our best to look after you, inshallah.
Inshallah.
If you could give a shout out to anyone for the Hajj experience, who would it be?
The Saudi government.
MashaAllah.
Anyone in particular by name?
Hey, MBS comes to mind.
What was your favorite food during the trip?
I'm not a foodie. I eat anything and everything that's there. But mashallah, I'm normally a chicken grill guy with some salads, mashallah.
MashaAllah.
Which day of Hajj was the most challenging and memorable for you?
There was nothing difficult, but I think the day when we left Muzdalifah, we went to Mina, the day of Nahr. That was the toughest of the easy days.
After returning to the UK, what feedback did you receive from the pilgrims you visited?
Having returned from Hajj, myself being in the UK, we decided to visit the Hujjaj primarily for the sake of Allah. Secondly, because after Hajj, there's always a dip in the lives of many people. They miss the Hajj, they miss the environment, they miss the ambience, they miss the spirituality, they miss so much of it. They come back to real life and it's a challenge once again, and they have to face the challenges that they faced prior to the Hajj. Although when they went to Hajj, obviously they're now clean and in the sense that their sins are forgiven and so on. So just to give them that courage, that boost, I started visiting them one by one. We visited so many families so far, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, no food, no drink besides Zamzam and dates. A few times we have eaten a bit, but mashallah, people we've developed a bond with, and it's become so unique. So today we visited a few as well. And mashallah, yesterday we visited a few, just a few. When I'm traveling, I ask one of my colleagues to take a look at who lives close to this road that we're going to be taking. And we'll visit one or two for a few moments, a stop. And that's the reason. And I notice all of them have a lot of positive words. And they do feel a bond with those whom they've made Hajj with, in most cases. So alhamdulillah, it's like a Hajj family. We've got a beautiful WhatsApp group and we communicate, even though the Hajj is over. But I think that bond, it should be a loose connection where you know that these are the people I made Hajj with. It's not necessary, but it's something I thought would add value to their lives. And alhamdulillah, it's been such a beautiful experience.
What advice would you give to those preparing for Hajj in 1447?
I think they should start preparing immediately, as soon as possible. Firstly, mentally, making an intention, so that spiritually as well, starting to save up and inshallah making it starting to learn and read and maybe watch a few videos, watch a few beneficial, a little bit of beneficial content online, and follow the Nusuk and follow the Ministry of Hajj maybe, and a few local partners perhaps, where we could start preparing ourselves. So as soon as the bookings open up, we are already prepared. So sometimes there are Hajj seminars. We had Hajj seminars for all those who registered an interest. So to register an interest with a certain party doesn't mean that you're going to go with them. But you've registered an interest, perhaps I'm interested in going, let's see how it goes. So you see what they have on offer, you see the dates, you see from now you can calculate roughly when the Hajj is going to happen. And you can have your package such that you have a mental note of what date you can go, what date you can come back. You can start planning, but you still don't know if you're going to actually be accredited. So all this preparation will already get you a massive reward. And it starts molding you into the mode of Hajj. And by that, it will make it very easy the day the journey is accepted. And for those who didn't make it last year, Allah's written a reward for you already. So you tried. The fact that you tried, Allah Almighty knows. You know, people were asking me that, what if I really tried to go for Hajj and, I pass away before the next Hajj? Although your Hajj is not done, the farad, but Allah will not punish you because He's written it for you with your intention. You were unable out of your capacity not to go. But someone, if you leave a little wasiyah or you leave a little bequest to say that if I were to die, please can someone do the Hajj from my money before it's distributed? It's fine. For as long as it takes up less than 1/3 of your estate, it's good to go. Someone will do it, and in that case, you will get a reward for it, almost guaranteed, because it's part from your wealth and so on. So there is a lot that we can take from it. When you start preparing for something, you actually are getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.